Hello everyone, and welcome back to Bugs Bunny Lost in Time on the Sony PlayStation. I am One Mile Sheep yet again, and this, ladies and gentlemen, is the first world of the game, the Stone Age era, and every single world takes place in a different time period, which is something I greatly appreciate. But without any further ado, let's get into the first proper stage of the game. Oh boy, Wabbit on the run.
Today's hunt is Wabbit.
Yeah, Wabbit, yeah.
Hey! What's up, Doc? Wabbit.
Yeah, Wabbit, yeah.
And there we are, welcome to Dinosaur Mountain. This stage has always given me sort of a Flintstones vibe. I don't know, maybe it's the way the textures work is, and you know, I actually adore the way this game looks. I mean, I know it's a PlayStation 1 title, and typical of a PlayStation 1 title, it doesn't really look too great, but I don't know, I like the cool cartoony aesthetics. It's one thing I've always said about video games, and one thing I will always stand by when I say about video games. Graphically, cartoony based games look better in years as opposed to realistic games, I've certainly noticed. But anyway, I absolutely adore Looney Tunes, and it's a big reason why I really got into this game. Like, when I was younger, when I first was a wee lad getting into these games, I was actually a really big Looney Tunes fan. In fact, I still am, I guess, because I still watched a couple of Looney Tunes cartoons every now and then. And, you know, just knowing the fact there's a game based around Bugs Bunny, how could I not go for this? And I know there were Bugs Bunny games in the past, but this is probably the first Bugs Bunny game I knew of that was actually legitimately properly good. I can't really speak for the older Bugs Bunny games or the older Looney Tunes games, because honestly, my knowledge about these games aren't very high, but you know, this was the earliest Looney Tunes game I knew about back in the day, and this is the one I went to, and I actually quite enjoyed it, all things considered. And also, this was, as you can probably guess, during the golden age of platformers, where everything was a platformer. Every single game out there was a 3D Collectathon platformer, and that was basically the oversaturated game genre of the industry. So, yeah, you know, it's a good game. But it does take a little bit of getting used to, because unlike most 3D platformers, the controls don't feel as tight or as responsive as you would like. For example, if you played Mario 64 and you press the jump button, it's pretty much an instant feedback that you jump. When it comes to Looney Tunes Lost in Time. When it comes to Bugs Bunny Lost in Time, however, there is a slight delay from when you press the jump button to when you actually perform a jump. And Bugs Bunny himself is pretty damn floaty in terms of how he maneuvers, so it does take a little bit of getting used to and controls in this one, ladies and gentlemen. And outside of that as well, the game also has an auto jump feature, which took me so goddamn long to realize, because basically whenever you run off a ledge, Bugs will automatically jump himself, which means you can quite easily die just because you're too close to the edge of a platform. And normally you can save yourself if you realize where you jump, because the auto jump feature can be manipulated by you pressing the X buttons. For example, if you go into an auto jump, if you press the X button quick enough, you can actually jump higher and higher and higher, because the default auto jump is very small. You don't really get you don't go much distance at all. So if you realize that you're doing an auto jump, you can press and hold the X button down, and you can sort of soar off at a much what's the word I'm thinking of here? Oh, Jesus. Yeah, the enemies are a pain in the ass in this game, by the way. You can sort of soar off a lot more effectively, you know. And from time to time, whenever you see enemies, you're going to want to try and go out of your way to try and take them out, because sometimes enemies will be holding golden carrots, and probably one of my biggest gripes with this game is the game doesn't really let you know when certain enemies are holding things like golden carrots and whatnot. You just have to boop them and kill them and hope for the best, which is a little bit annoying in the grand scheme of things, I'll tell you that much, but you know, just take advantage of all the things that we've learnt in the first stage, and you should be just fine. In fact, this is a little bit of an outlier in comparison to other 3D Collectathon titles, because while the game is designed in pretty much the same way as any other 3D Collectathon title, where you're going through levels, you're exploring these stages, and you're collecting a plethora of items to progress through the game, the stages themselves are actually they're pretty damn linear for the most part. You're never really going to find yourself getting too lost or really struggling to find any collectibles, with maybe the exception of one stage way later down the line, and you'll know what stage I'm talking about because I will bitch and moan about that, but that's pretty much end game, so I'll talk about that when I get to it. So yeah, I mean, this game isn't exactly too challenging in that regard. It's really more of a... If I were to describe this game best, I would say it's like Crash Bandicoot if the controls weren't as tight, and if Crash Bandicoot also had a collectathon sort of mentality behind it. That's the best way I can sort of go about explaining this game, you know, ladies and gentlemen, but, you know, because it's linear and a collectathon, it doesn't make it a bad game. You still have to look out, you still need to keep an eye out for any nooks and crannies and stuff, because the game can quite easily lose track of certain clocks and certain golden carrots in the environment if you're not really paying attention. For example, that's why I'm going back by here, because I'm like, oh, okay, I thought there was something there, but there wasn't. So you basically do need to keep an eye out, but as long as you're giving a little bit of thought to looking around, you know, you'll never really be in too much trouble of running out of items. In fact, you should be able to get through this game without ever needing to backtrack, I think. Don't quote me on that because I'm not actually sure, because I know backtracking is a big part in regards to about 2 or 3 levels, but you know, I'm pretty certain you'll probably be able to beat this game without ever needing to revisit a level and backtrack later down the line just by going through the game in one go, you know, ladies and gentlemen. Although one thing that does bug me is whenever you pick up consecutive amounts of items, because when you pick up a consecutive item, for some reason, the number on the top left of the screen, for example, right now when I picked up the carrot, it flashes at you. That hurts my eyes. It always has hurt my eyes, especially when I used to play this back in the day on an old CRT TV where the picture was just... Ugh. Seriously, I don't get the love for CRTs. I've never liked those sort of TVs. They've always hurt my eyes. I don't know. Maybe I've always had the color set wrong on them or something, but I've always had issues with them. But, yeah, it's a little bit of an annoyance I have.
Great.
And for the most part, the stages themselves aren't that long either to get through, you know, ladies and gentlemen. Like, they're all really basic linear platforming stages, and the biggest thing you're really gonna have to worry about is probably just getting used to the controls for the most part. Like, once you get used to the main controls of the game is actually a really easy breeze just to play through. And from time to time you will come across shadows across the ground. Be careful of those. Shadows bad. And they will hurt because, you know, if they drop an anvil on your head in typical Looney Tunes fashion, which is a bit annoying. But be careful by here, because as you can probably tell, well, as the sign also blatantly told us, there is a sleeping pterodactyl. How do we get by this pterodactyl? We wait for him to fall back to sleep, and then we need to use the sneak command in order to get up to that clock. Which is kind of weird, because depending on how lucky you are, because sometimes bugs will say a certain voice clip whenever he picks up a clock. So, yeah, so right by here, for example, he just sort of shouted great in the pterodactyl's ear, and the pterodactyl didn't wake up from that. That's a little bit annoying, but yeah, by here, this is still an easy part of the game, you know, we're still getting used to the game, its mechanics itself, and the pterodactyl's just sort of there just to, I guess, just to sort of remind you that, oh yeah, you can hold down the circle button, you can sneak around the environment, you know. Because if you forget that, you may have a bit of issues getting from point A to point B, ladies and gentlemen. But of course, with that last golden carrot there, that is this stage 100% complete, ladies and gentlemen. Which, for God's sake, bloody cactuses! Yeah, the cactuses are my worst enemy in this game. I don't like these things. But, you know, it's pretty good stuff. One thing that's also kind of unique about this game as well is there are no lives. Now during this time period, having a game without any extra lives and whatnot was pretty much unheard of, and if you get caught by the pterodactyl, it takes you back to the beginning, so it's a bit of a pain in the ass, so I'm just going to cut ahead. But yeah, there's no extra lives in this game, so if you're running low on health, if you're running low on carrots, and you need a refill of energy, just kill yourself. Because there are absolutely zero repercussions for dying in this one, ladies and gentlemen. Which, honestly, I appreciate. I like that, because then it basically means I can abuse boss fights and what have you. And truth be told, boss fights in this stage can be quite a bit of a challenge if you don't know what you're doing. So, you know, just the fact we don't get any real penalty for dying, I mean, for that reason alone, I'm a little bit appreciative of, you know, ladies and gentlemen. But also we've unlocked the next world of the game, which we will be going to in the next part. And that level in the next world is, it's... If I'm gonna be honest, I don't like it. It's one of the longest and one of the most tedious stages in the game, so it's gonna be a bit of a... I'm gonna probably end up rambling a lot to get through this one, but hey, it's time to do a boss battle. Oh boy!
Shh. Be very, very quiet. I'm hunting wabbits. You, wabbit. Ouch!
And there we are, ladies and gentlemen. Now it's time to take care of Elmer Fudd himself, the very first boss fight of the game. And honestly, Elmer Fudd's a bit of a missed opportunity, I think, because this is literally the only time we get to see him in the entire game. He doesn't appear after this, and it's depressing just because of that reason, because the other boss fights, they all show up. But in order to beat him, you just need to follow exactly what Bugs did during the cutscene itself. Basically, you need to whack Elmer Fudd in order to kick him into the walls. And you need to utilize the rabbit holes in order to dig underneath him and basically catch him off guard, you know, ladies and gentlemen. It's the first boss of the game. It's going to be pretty damn easy. Boss fights do quickly ramp up in difficulty though, however, with the next boss in particular being a pain in the ass. But, you know, I'll talk about that when I get to it. Also, you need to pay attention as well. Every single time that you hit Elmer Fudd, he will knock out 2 golden carrots. So you do need to keep an eye out for that and collect the golden carrots that come out of him when he is injured. Well, with the exception of the final hit. So on the final hit, he only has 1 golden carrot, but he does drop a clock. So just collect the clock. That is it for the stage, and there we go. We are done from the Stone Age era. For quite a large portion of the game, actually, we don't return to this world for, like, I'm gonna say until around the 50% mark of the game at least. So yeah, hope you enjoyed the time here, because we don't stay in this era of time, you know, this time era that much, which is kind of strange. By the way, that stage, but there we just unlocked, Follow the Red Pirate Road. Yeah, we're not completing that. That stage will not be completed until like the end game. It's like one of those stages that you don't even gain access to properly until quite a bit later. So I don't even know why they've unlocked it at this point. But hey, you know. Anyway, that's the golden carrot you can trade 99 normal carrots for. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, that's it for this part. So thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed. Don't be sheepish, people, and I'll catch you all next time as we return and take care of the pirateers. So I'll catch you all then. Bye!